welcome back to The Level. So here's what we're going to do in here. We're going to really take our time and understand how do you create a game plan around each of these personality assessments. Understand, if you're the leader, you're what I like to call the head coach of the team. And what's the job of a head coach? I ask that question quite frequently, and I get a shitload of different answers. I've heard people say, well, it's your job to lead the people well, or it's your job to make sure the team's heading in the right direction, or make sure the culture is right. And I'm like, yeah, but if you do all of that and you go 0-16, what's going to happen to your ass? You're getting fired. Let's just be honest. The job of a head coach is, the head coach has one job. Al Davis told us in the 80s, win, baby, win. The job of a head coach is to win. As a leader, your job is to do one thing, win. Win. How do you win with projects? How do you win with getting work done? Well, it takes a damn game plan. You have to have a game plan in place. That's why coaches script out plays. They know who's on their team. They understand player personnel. So I want you to really view yourself as a head coach, understanding your player personnel, who's on your team, really beginning to identify each of those players on your team and what value they bring to the team, right? Now, you have to ask yourself a very important question here. And this is where a lot of my leaders in construction struggle, I'll be honest. All right. The question you have to ask yourself is, what do you want? What do you want? And the second question is, what are you willing to do to get it? Because oftentimes, my leaders in construction, I told you, hey, no bullshit here, no bullshit. So what happens oftentimes? Someone makes a mistake and the leader loses their cool and they lose their shit on a person. And all of a sudden, morale of the team is down, work productivity is down because the leader lost their cool and couldn't hang in there. Versus saying, hey, whoa, wait a minute. What do I want right now? What am I willing to do? If I have to reel my personality back in, I'm willing to do that for the betterment of the team to make sure we win, right? That's ultimately important. So in this segment, I want to challenge you to think about dialing up and dialing down your personality style so that you can interact better with your team. So here's your number one assignment first. Your first assignment is this. I want you to think about your key employees around you, those people who work with you. And in the last segment to take off, we went through color assessments. I want you to start thinking and not trying to identify them, your teammates. What color do you think they are? Where do they land? Because that's going to be important for you to identify that first, to know your key personnel, so that if you know your personnel, now I can begin to script out plays and how to interact and how to deal with them, right? That's going to be very, very important to understand how to deal with them, how to work with them, ultimately so that you can be super, super successful, right? So with that being said, I want to go through right now to talk about what does each player bring to the table, right? So my blue team, Team Blue, as I said, team players, phenomenal with people. When they're at their best, my friends, they are great people motivators. They're empathetic. They are aware of other people's feelings around them, so they understand that. They also are great at personal relationships and bringing people together. That's when they're at their best. But now, hear me out on this. They have a side of their worst side also, when I like to say they're getting too blue, right? So when they get too blue, what happens? Well, here's what happens when they get too blue. They try to carry and rescue everyone. They feel guilt-ridden when they can't. They try to be a superhero and try to save the day all the time. And also they carry guilt and burdens for a long time, right? So understand that. That's them at their best as well as them at their worst. But your job as a leader is to bring the best out of them so that they're the glue that keeps the team together, right? My greens, when they're at their best, what do they bring to the table? Well, they bring conceptualization, systematic thinking. They plan like none other. So you're bulletproof 6, 9, 12, 2 years down the road because they're thinking about that shit, right? They're fair and firm. They understand theory and those kinds of things, and they're able to explain it well. But now, hear me out. When they're at their worst, when they're getting too green, it's turned up too much, what happens? Well, they become mental gymnasts, and they want to think about it all the damn time. You need an answer. I need to think about it. Let me think some more, right? They can miss the immediate because they're thinking so far down the road on things, as well as they tend to not want to work in groups. They can appear aloof and impersonal and want to be by themselves all the time. That's when they're at their worst, right? So that's them at their best. This is them at their worst. My gold team, what do they look like when they're at their best? Now understand, they're great administrators. They understand order and discipline. They understand structure. They take charge. They take control when they're at their best. Now, but when they're at their damn worst, understand this, my friends. They're nitpicky. They can be very rigid. They can be arrogant at times, as well as they're stubborn and don't like flexibility, right? At their best, at their worst. Last but not least, my oranges. What do they look like? Well, at their best, phenomenal problem solvers, right? Flexible, can get things done on the fly. They love just thinking on the fly, immediate and resourceful, as well as they're quick starters. Now, but when they're at their damn worst, it's a shit show, right? What do I mean by that? Well, they create problems when there are none, right? When they're at their worst, they have low interest beyond the practical. At times, they get very bored and distracted really, really easy, as well as there's little follow-through when they're at their worst. So your job as a leader is to understand all of these personality styles, what happens when they're at their best, what happens when they're at their worst, and it's your job to say, okay, I see who's in front of me right now, and I'm willing to do my best to influence them so that I bring out the best in them. Your job as a leader, my friend, is to create belonging environments. Now, when we talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion, oftentimes we leave out belonging, right? Belonging means you do a phenomenal job as a leader of reeling them in based on their personality and their style so they understand that they belong on this team, they're a part of the team, and understand that goes beyond everything else that we see. Race, gender, ethnicity, what I believe, all that stuff. We're just talking about personality at the deep core of who we are, reeling them in with that, right? So when you think about that, I want to challenge you to really be open to talking other people's language. What do I mean by that? Well, in the first segment of the takeoff, we talked about you, knowing what color you are, right? But now, I just shared with you what these other colors bring to the table when they're at their best, as well as when they're at their worst. Your job, my friend, as a leader, is to do everything possible to win, to bring them out at their best. So what does that look like? Well, let's talk about each of these, and let's talk about how do you influence. Because it's important to understand what are some of the strategies you need once you identify that person on your team. Hey, I understand that Linda, Susan, Bob, Bill, Hector, they are blue. What the hell do I need to do to motivate them? Well, here are influencing strategies for you. This is the game plan, right? This is what you call the game plan so that you know this is in your back pocket. You know how to motivate them, encourage them. Here's what you do. From a blue person, number one, establish a democratic relationship with them. Understand, they're about people and team. I don't care if you don't want to do it. Understand, you're trying to win. You want to get the best out of them. So you want to establish a democratic relationship with them, number one. Number two, you want to include them in making ideas. Understand, Team Blue loves teamwork and harmony, and they want to be a part of the process. So anytime you get a chance to, reel them in to say, hey, listen, here's what we're doing. Here's some of the activities that we're going to do. Here's what we're thinking about. We would love to have you a part of it. Would you be willing to come in and help the team get better? I guarantee you they'll run through brick walls for you because of that, because they love team, right? What's next? Well, they need approval. So this group right here, as they're working, they really want to make sure that you have their best interest at heart. So letting them know they're doing a great job, you being there to support them helps reel them in, and that gives you that influencing strategy as you talk about them. And then last but not least, which is very, very, very important for this group right here, focus on feelings, not just facts. I'm going to say that again. Focus on feelings, not just facts. For this group, it's important for them to know that you care about how they feel, right? Now, you may not agree with it, and that's cool. Shit, you don't have to agree with it. But you can at least acknowledge, say, listen, I understand how you feel. I understand why you may feel like that. I don't agree with you, but I at least want to hear your feelings, right? And if there's anything I can do, I'm going to help there with that. Sometimes just that alone helps reel that blue in. So let's talk about green influencing strategies. How do you influence a green person? Because understand, very analytical. They live in their head. Oftentimes, these are the smartest people in the room, right? So they're 10, 20, 30 steps ahead of everybody, usually. So influencing them can be very difficult. Number one, as a leader, demonstrate competence. please understand this, my friends. If you don't know what you're talking about, just say it. Don't bullshit a green, because if you make a mistake, they will discredit everything you say after that point, right? So if you don't know, be honest, say you don't know, and you'll go back and research it, because they value competence. And in order to influence them, you have to be very, very competent, right? The next thing is be able to identify quantifiable results. They want to know, well, how do we know we're going in the right direction? You can't just say, well, it feels right. No. That doesn't work. That works for blue, does not work for green. Green doesn't give a shit how you feel, right? They want to know, well, wait a minute. What numbers, what are we measuring? How we know we need to adjust? And by having those quantifiable results, it helps get them on board with you, right? The next thing is focus on future possibilities. So remember I talked about inviting the blue people in, the blue team in, to help think and creatively solve problems. Invite this team in as well to probe future possibilities. They love thinking about the future, thinking about what if, how can we solve this problem, what can we do? They love thinking, right? And then last but not least, discuss things at an intellectual level, right? Some colors want the basics. This color likes thinking on big, challenging problems at a high level. If you begin to do that, I guarantee you'll bring this color in. Now, I'm going to be honest with you, because we're not bullshitting you here. This is probably the most difficult personality to deal with, because they're smart. At times they can be arrogant. At times they're standoffish. They don't like teams. It can be a shit show. I'll be honest with you. Most of the leaders that I work with, when they call me to talk about consulting to help them out, it's usually because they're having a shit show with a green personality type and they don't know what to do, right? So if you have to master any personality at all, it's this one right here, because this is very, very, very tricky. This is a smart group. They don't go for the bullshit. They tend to stand off by themselves, like I said, and so it can be very, very difficult, right? So you want to master this one right here. How do you influence a goal leader? Well, remember, they're process driven. They're thinking about, how do I get from point A to point B? How do I get from here to there? So for them, you have to communicate timelines and a reporting structure. They want to know, hey, well, what's the system? What's the structure? How do we know? When are we going to report back, right? This group right here, if not careful, can be micromanagers. So they want the information. Keep them in the loop at all times, right? What else? Well, it's important to give them specific instructions and guidelines. This group right here, my friends, they love following the rules. This is the only group that follows the rules. Every other color will break the rules, right? So how do you influence this color? Well, follow the damn rules. Set some rules first and then follow them. Blue people will break the rules if people are involved and people are getting hurt. Greens will break the rules if it's a dumbass rule. That's a dumbass rule. I'm not following that. And then in this next color we talk about, oranges, shit, they just don't like rules, period, right? So they're going to push the envelope anyway. So this color right here loves the rules, looks for standards, right? So how else do you do this? Well, provide them opportunities to grow and to correct their mistakes if they do that. If you're willing to do those things there, you can reel a goal personality type in to follow you if you follow those guidelines. The last but not least, my oranges. So how do you influence them? How do you reel them in? Well, first and foremost, understand this. They hate to be micromanaged. So one way to do that is to give them freedom, right? And so you do that by what? Getting to the point. Don't send them long emails. Don't send long notes. Get to the point. You know, I tend to bullet point my emails when I send it to an orange personality type with limited words, right? With that right there. The next thing is give clear, minimal instructions. What do you need them to do in the next few hours? Don't give them everything for the week, the month. No, because they're thinking everything. They're all over the place with that right there, right? Make difficult tasks challenging. It works for them because they tend to like to win. So if you can make something difficult and hard, understand this. That group wants to win. They're going to be all out trying to do it, right? And then last but not least, outline multiple options for them. Don't just tell them, hey, it has to be done this way. You got to do it this way or else. No. That is a shit show waiting to happen. If you can begin to outline options, tell them when it's needed, when you need it by, and then let them have that, my friends, you will pull them in. So as a leader, it's your job to understand each personality, style, and color has great potential as well as bad options and potential. Your job is to be the head coach, pull it out of them so that they win. Ultimately, they show you so that your team succeeds. So I want to challenge you. What are you willing to do to win? Are you willing to set your ego aside, your color and your personality style aside, be flexible and willing to dial up and dial down what color you need during that interaction so that you can influence your person to win and win really, really well. It's all about following the game plan, my friends. If you follow the game plan, you can master this thing of colors and personality style and have a phenomenal team. We're going to go more in the next segment to show you how to bring all of this together to have the right mindset of thinking in the foundation. So I'll see you in the next segment, my friends.